Good morning, everyone. This is Chris Korapati from Cambrian Lab. With me is my colleague Manish Mathur. Today's session, we are going to cover master data management for supply chain excellence. We have a full 1-hour session, and our agenda is roughly broken into 4 or 5 topics. We will do a very brief intro of the panelists. That includes me and Manish. We will cover some of the aspects of master data management when it comes to supply chain excellence, provide an overview at a high level, and start digging into various topics that we have found. One is materials management and the supply chain. If you're a global organization, how do you support regional, global, or business-specific master data needs? We also have a topic on some of the strategies for the pursuit of perfect master data, and another topic around how master data management is very, very integral to engineering and supply chain processes. What we are going to do differently this time is, as we are going through these topics, we will also highlight some of the ways you can accomplish it using workflows and various techniques. So the topic will be interspersed with short demos so that you can get a better idea of how things can be accomplished, especially with respect to supply chain excellence as a core goal. We will keep the last 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to either type them in or put it into a chat so that we can use the last 10 minutes to answer those questions. Okay, so that's our this thing. A little bit about Zoom logistics, since we are going to be taking in some questions, or you may have some comments about the topic or topics. You can use Q&A or a chat. I think we would prefer Q&A so that these questions and answers are recorded and sent to us, so that we can go through the questions and answer as much as possible in the 10 minutes that we have towards the end. Or if we are not able to cover all the questions, we can send answers to the questions as part of the distribution of the recording and presentation. Okay, so the recording and presentation will be sent out after the session is completed. We do have a little bit of preparation to be done, where you can download the presentations, view the recording. So it'll be like a day or two before you get it in your email. Okay, so you will get that in an email. Just a little bit about us, panelists. I'm head of product management at Cambrian Lab. I have over 20+ years experience in NPI and supply chain, both at the operational level, and I also developing software for these processes. Okay, Manish is also a similar experience. Worked several years in the automotive industry, and also in software, providing, developing, and architecting software for NPI and supply chain excellence. Okay, and about the company, we are based out of California and Texas, as a matter of fact. So we have provide support for a lot of companies in these industries. Many of our engagements are in the realm of NPI, master data management, and supply chain. And most of our customers use our solutions to improve or support their supply chain excellence initiatives. Just to give you our experience in master data management, it's one of our core areas of focus. While we cover a lot of supply chain oriented topics, master data tends to be one of the bigger issues that we address. And you can see, we are very, very deeply involved in a lot of manufacturing industries, if you want to call it. And part of manufacturing and supply chain there's a lot of master data that needs to be addressed. And so we provide master data workflow management solutions that integrate master data as a key principle of supply chain excellence or NPI or by itself too. So in this topic, what we will cover is master data and its various manifestations in the supply chain, and how materials management is perhaps like the central aspect of supply chain excellence. So we'll cover those two topics. So if you think about supply chain, you got both the customer side of the equation as well as the supplier side of the partners and parties, right? And one of the things that is central to all of these processes, so if you think of supply chain, it could include manufacturing, planning, distribution, and delivery of the product to the end customer, and the many channels that they use. All of that and every single process within this the supply chain ecosystem here relies on master data. Things like SKUs and materials and different types of materials and suppliers, manufacturer, recipes and routing. So if you're coming from all of the different industries in manufacturing, you may be using all of these master data and this master data is central to all the business processes that happen within the supply chain. Okay, and you cannot see master data as some separate topic. I'm going to sit on the side and do it, but it is in fact supporting all of these business processes very, very deeply. Now, one of the things that since we do come from the actual operational side of NPI and supply chain, one of the things that we have consistently seen is customers or companies struggling with master data and master data processes. If you think of master data, we just take care of data, and that's our primary goal. But poor master data has very uniformly and fairly bad consequences from an supply chain and operational excellence perspective. And that should be like one of the primary reasons why we think master data processes and master data requires significant attention, because it does impact, your day-to-day business. And unfortunately, one of the things that we have seen is, many companies, still rely on a lot of email, Excel. If you're a little bit more sophisticated, you might look at SharePoint forms and things like that and say, hey, that's our master data process and solution. So it is what it is. Interestingly, we've also found that companies that have invested significant amounts of money on MDM solutions still somehow struggle with master data. And even after a pretty big solution, there's still a lot of non-value added work. It takes too long. It's pretty expensive. Not everybody is very happy about it. And the other thing that we have seen is there is a definite silo effect of master data, the way it is supported and practiced in many cases, and business stakeholders are not necessarily involved all the time. Right? They provide some information, but that's about it. It all seems to happen at a plumbing level, right? Data flowing back and forth between different solutions. So this is a challenge, especially for manufacturing companies. It is an obstacle for supply chain excellence. And if you think about master data, if you look at new product introduction, right? A lot of companies have very elaborate processes and very, important processes around new product introduction. And master data is pretty central to this whole process. How do you support this, with proper master data workflows, processes has an impact on, how well you can actually support an NPI process. A good example here is, SKUs, right? SKUs are, finished products that actually are sold to the customers, right, in different channels. It is a very important process for a lot of organizations. And yet, we've seen that and master data is central to this whole process. And this is a challenge, it continues to be a challenge for a lot of organizations. Just to give you an example. Another thing about material master data is if you think of material master or part, there are items, depending upon the type of ERP solution that you have, the terminology can differ. But material master to a large extent and the data around it is the culmination of a supply chain strategy. Okay, so if you think of what we are doing to design, make, and deliver products to customers, it all is represented in a material master. And these are the different elements of that, right? So as the process is continuing, or from an NPI perspective or supply chain readiness perspective, what teams are doing is really orchestrating processes to develop a supply chain strategy and provide all the related data with respect to that. And that is represented as a material master in many cases, right? So if you think of SKU process and introduction, what we want to do is, some of the approaches that people have taken and how do you improve that, right? So traditionally, what we have seen is SKUs, if you're in, doesn't matter in manufacturing, industrial manufacturing, food or CPG or chemicals, there is always, you are coming up with new ideas and, you want to take it to market, right? So you start off as a project or a request. There is a lot of cross-functional collaboration, that happens a lot here. And different teams come together, they come up with a strategy for a new product. And the whole process of designing and procuring and quality and setting up the supply chain strategy for that product, it all comes together. And it becomes, through various gates, it becomes master data, right? So if you think about it, these are all the different steps that are involved. So there is a very human element to master data management, but also there's a lot of master data that SKU set up here. There's also a lot of master data that is involved, and somehow you need to blend those two together to make it a lot efficient, right? And one thing that we've seen here is, if you are a traditional approach, and some of that is unavoidable. You don't just come up with a new product just sitting around, right? So there is a lot of email marketing. There's a design work that happens. There's strategy, decision making around that, and then based upon the strategy that is set up, you have to set up various types of master data, right? Involved in that. This, for a lot of organizations, is a struggle. And one of the things that we want to show is how you can use digital workflow to actually speed up this process and make it a lot more effective for both the cross-functional team and a systems perspective. So what I'm going to do is give a short demo at this point, and then we'll come back to the other topics. Okay. So what you're seeing here in the browser is our master data workflow management solution. And you can see different types of workflows that are designed. Several of them are on materials. We approach master data very much as a business process. It needs to be part of the day-to-day business. It cannot be as a separate function that you should be seeing. So everybody can come in and participate in this master data workflow. So you can see different areas of the master data, different business processes that are set up to support all of the core business processes as well as related master data. Okay, so for example, you are interested in, you're getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas. You want to introduce a new SKU for this season, right? So as a marketing, merchandising team, you're going to set up a new SKU request. You initiate it, and you can say, we're going to do an original new request, and we are going to do a new barbecue flavor chips. Chips for Christmas season, okay? 2024. Let's be clear, because a lot of companies have a variety of SKUs that they want to release, and we will be using internal site. Yes, we need to artwork request. So you can, this is how a lot of companies organize their work and initiate this thing. So this is a temporary product run, yes. And since it's a actual SKU, we are going to do it as a finished product because this is a company that can also actually sell bulk items to end customers. And we want to use an existing material as a guideline for this. And let's pick that product, SAP, right? So this material as a setup for initiating this request as a background or really as a base product, right? So once this SKU is done, we need to provide some preliminary information around weights. Let's put this is all preliminary information. We're gonna do this thing in kilograms and then save. And that's how marketing teams can decide, okay, we are going to initiate this SKU project, okay? And you would submit it. So now, one of the things, we really, really think workflow-driven approach for master data is probably the most effective instead of just looking at it as data. Okay, so now that this thing is set up, request is prepared, just to give you an idea who all are involved in this process. So because we are still talking about the front end of the SKU, right? So if you look at the roles, there is all of these different teams: packaging, research and development, planning, demand planning, finance. They're all part of SKU or any cross-functional business process related to this SKU introduction, right? So they all need to come back and provide some decision-making, assessment, and information related to this. So, and the way that we would be setting it up is we have a workflow. Once the request is prepared, the master data team comes in and provides a material number. Since one of the first things that people do when they are preparing for an SKU is they need to get a material number and block or actually set up some skeleton material in various systems, right? Various SKU, right? If you're in SAP, you would set up basic material view. If it is in a sales e-commerce systems, there would be an SKU setup over there, GTINs and UPC codes. A lot of the work happens the moment you decide, hey, we're going to do that. Once that is done, there's a lot of people that come in, they provide input, right? What are the items that we need to procure for this, right? What is the demand planning? What is our transportation strategy? What is our R&D? What are ingredients we're going to be using? All of that happens as a collaborative activity, right? So we've set up that collaboration here as part of this workflow. And once that is done, we need to then, based upon the strategy that the team has come up with, we have to create the master data accordingly. So what we're going to do is use a master data, what we call sub-process, to set up all of that. So let's go ahead and submit this. Now the workflow takes over and moves it to the next. Now that the submission happened, moves it to the next stage, right? The next one is actually the master data. It goes to the master data team so that they can assign a material number. It could be like a UPC code, or you could use internal and then assign UPC, GTIN, etc. separately. In this case, we're just going to use an internal a material number that we have set aside and use that. Just to give you, the workflow is set up so that it pulls people in when their activity becomes current, right? So it proactively brings the right people at the right time. And if I look at it, I should have gotten an email. I'm going to open my email here. And you can see that, right? This email sent to you by admin. We add material number for the process, for the, some details. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to this and log in. If I log in as the person, I'll see exactly what is that activity here. So add material number in the process. So even from email, you can come directly here. So all I have to do is just pick the right listing. So let me call it ZF barbecue. I'm going to call it 03. Done. And my job is done. Okay, we've selected the material number. It could be, again, these things can come from external systems, or it can also be generated internally based upon some branding and smart numbering system strategy, right? So here we are done. So we completed it. And the next thing that the workflow is actually doing is it went ahead and created the skeleton of this. And in this case, we've set up that skeleton in SAP, right? So that's the first place most people do it, because before you're ready for any e-commerce or SKU or things like that. So here, if we actually go in, I'm going to be logging in to SAP here. And if you know SAP a little, anybody here, we can look at that ZF barbecue. Okay. Okay, so we have ZF BBQ 3. So it just has some very basic information, right? Material number, some descriptions. We provided net weight of Z1 and material group L404. So this, we just have a skeleton at this point. Okay, so let's go back to that workflow. I'm going to log back in as this thing. So now that it sent out the notification to everyone, and it is actually in the parallel data step, right? So there are a lot of people now that are coming together at the same time to provide inputs to this SKU, right? So let me log in as one of them and show you how it looks for them, right? Because if you are doing something concurrently, parallelly, people need to be able to see their information and provide their inputs just according to the specific of information that they're requesting. So this workflow actually provides a facility. Now, if you were to do this thing sequentially, this can take forever. What you need to do is provide some way of people coming together or working at the same time on different pieces of information with respect to this SKU. So I'm going to log back in as the requester and then see how it looks. Okay. So our request was this 113. And if I go all the way down, it is waiting for all of these people to provide some input, finance team, procurement, transportation, R&D, and so on. So let me log in as the planning team here. Okay, so I'm going to log in as one of the planners. Okay, so it always puts at the last in, last out mode. So the planners is primarily, they are planning, where are we going to make it? Do we have any co-manufacturing strategy? What is our distribution and storage, right? So I'm going to select, hey, this one, we have Fremont as the primary plant. We can set up so that prepare one of our co-manufacturers to be able to do that. And we'll be using all three of them from a distribution perspective, and the one locally in California as the cold storage. Okay, so that's my input here. And then I'm going to complete this input. So if you go back to the bottom, the planning team has completed it. Let me go to now finance. I'm going to log out in. So in general, everybody is working at the same time. So they just are able to review what is important for them and provide the information that is specific. So instead of confusing a lot of information and saying, hey, go find it and fill it in there, the system actually partitions the information and provides the people the right set of inputs that they should give. Okay, so I'm going to log in as finance. So here we have that guy again, 113. It's also waiting for them. And all they have to do is select the profit center and to the product hierarchy. Okay, so we are done with that. And you can see, as they're finishing it up, this parallel step is getting completed, all the different tasks. So let me, in this interest of time, go back to as a requester, since I have some higher level privileges. I'm going to finish this up and then get to the next stage. Okay. So this is rest of it looks good. We don't, we can just use the existing alternate. I'm going to skip the ingredients part of it for now. We may want to provide some information here. So if you notice here, the type of information that we need is somewhat minimal, because the rest of it is all going to come in as a default, right? So we'll just do this and we are done. Okay, so I'm going to complete it. I'm going to complete it for everyone, right? So we're not going to wait for everyone to complete it. So now it is actually going to the master data review, right? So we're good. I'm going to come in and say, yes, you're going to accept it. You can also send it back to them. And what it's done here is, hey, now that the request is ready, go ahead and create this material fully. Okay. So it creates what is called a sub-process. So if I look at it, it looks like this. Now that we have all the information needed, we are going to go ahead and create it in the primary plant, set up some characteristics, right? There are additional plans, storage locations, sales areas involved. We'll set it up, set up quality inspection plans. Since recipes, bombs, if there are ingredients, create routing. So this is a little bit more SAP specific way of handling it, but you can also, if you have another ERP system, you can set it up in a similar fashion. Now this sub-process here has all the information that was sent from the request. In addition to that, it also has a lot of defaults, some of the information that is specific to the way the supply chain aspects of the material are supported within that system. So you look, some of these are somewhat specific to SAP, and you can see all of that here, right? So we're going to add to one plant. Okay, so that one plant would be 1720, and then we might actually add to one more sales area extension. Okay, that is 1720 and 10. Okay. So with that, we're good to go. I'm going to say review. It went ahead and based upon the copied from material, it actually got some info. Okay. And some of the groups, etc., they're all set up here. And then we can just go ahead and submit the information. Okay, so here, oh, sorry, we need to specify a unit of measure. Forgot that. One, AG1, save changes. And we're going to rerun that again, okay? So we'll stop it. So you can see that, we can, if something fails by the system, we can always rerun it. So we're going to do it 3 steps back. And then run this thing again. Okay. Let's go ahead and submit it. All right, so now that material is properly set up in terms of the material, the primary plant. So if I go back to this material, so people that are coming from SAP, you recognize all of these. Now that a lot of the information, it's getting ready for supply chain and manufacturing and selling, etc. Right? So here I'm going to pick up some of this information, quality management, and show you. So it is now in this setup in this plant. You can start to make that. Okay, and it's a storage location. So from a distribution channel perspective, we are done. Right now, the material, this SKU is ready to be manufactured within this plant, this one plant, and sold through the distribution channels that are set up for this, right? The tax information, everything. So if you think about it, this used to be a very, very long, tedious process. Now by setting up a collaborative process in front from a SKU initiation perspective, and then following it up with all of the different master data creation, right? We've kind of made it very, very simple. So what we're going to do next is, it's going to be not only just manufactured in one plant, we also need to be able to distribute, sell through other parts of the organization, right? There could be another plant over there with its own distribution channel. So we want to go ahead and do all of that, extend to additional plants and additional sales areas. So let's go ahead and do that. Also set up completing the quality inspection plans, and then we'll create the recipe and everything, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Now it's going to go ahead and set up this material so that it can be made and distributed to other plants and distribution channels. And the quality inspection day strategy is also set up. So if you're going to be receiving it or shipping it, if there are any quality checks that need to happen, those tasks are also implemented as part of this master data setup. Okay, so if I go back to SAP here, so now if I select this, let's pick sales. So now, in addition to 1710, we also are in this 1720, right? That plant is also set up. So it would be specific storage locations over there. And okay, so now we are getting the supply chain ready so that it can support this SKU both from a manufacturing and distribution perspective. So so you can see that how a workflow-driven approach is a lot more very business process oriented and can compress the cycles that are involved in NPI and support the overall NPI process well, right? So if you think of, that is a separate process, and then they'll give us some data, and we will go ahead and put it in our ERP and supply chain systems. That is not a very ideal scenario that we have noticed. And it seems to break down quite often, introduces a lot of errors and so on, right? So we think this is definitely a much cleaner and better approach. Okay. And now that you've seen, some of we're going to go to the next topic. When we work with a lot of our customers, one of the things that comes up is, hey, we have all of these different divisions and regions and sales offices and plants all over the world. What should we do for business process or master data process needs for all of these things? So you have really two options. One is whether it is customer material or supplier, you can take the strategy of hey, we'll have one single process and we'll accommodate all the needs of different business needs, regional needs, any other type of special need that comes up, right? Material types or customers in different countries and continents, or suppliers in different countries and continents, different types of suppliers. So all of that is a consideration when you're thinking of master data. Well, how should we approach it? This is one approach. Okay, we've seen that a lot in some of the traditional master data solutions or approaches. The other approach is hey, we are going to view this as each demands, some cases requires its own workflow, right? The data is common or some variations to it, but we need to really approach it as, that region is very, very different from the way we do business in Asia Pacific, could be very different from how it is done in North America, right? The customers and the process that you have to support. So two approaches, right? Single, or should we take different? So we have some experience on this. We strongly lean towards different workflows for different needs, only because the material types, an SKU is very, very different from a packaging material that you buy from a supplier. It has its own variation. It has its own workflow activities, what you need to do, information, so on, right? So you need to possibly design something different for a packaging material or a sourced material compared to like an SKU. Same thing we have repeatedly noticed for, you have a division of yours is in Europe, and there's one in North America. What should you do? Use the same thing, or should you set up two different things, two different workflows? So we seen, and we have a lot of experience in this, that eventually most customers need flexibility and agility versus one single thing that accomplishes, that works for everyone. That's like almost becomes like a straitjacket. So we strongly recommend different workflows for flexibility and agility reasons, right? One small change shouldn't impact everybody, right? If something needs to be done in European Union, you don't want to impact something happening in North America. So in that respect, multiple workflows, having different workflows independent of each other is very, very non-disruptive from an operations perspective. You want to do a small change for North America, in EU, none of those get impacted. In addition, there is a lot of information security and compliance that we have noticed. The requirements vary from region to region, and the type of information, the type of object, master data object. Even for that reason, it actually is better to have a different workflow so that you're supporting the compliance and security, information security regulations, right? So we our strategy generally is to recommend multiple workflows. And if you notice here, and the thing is, it should be first and foremost, it should be easy, because a lot of traditional approaches for workflow, it's very heavy. It takes forever to design something, right? The core data is the same. However, you can use different ways of handling it. So same thing, right? If you have a new vendor creation, it is a vendor. At the end of the day, the supplier is being created in different systems. The supplier is updated in different systems. But you might have vendor for if I go back here, 4 different workflows handling needs of North America, LATAM, APAC, right? So something like that actually is a lot more effective than having one new supplier onboarding, right? So that's our recommendation. And so but the prerequisite for just ability to support multiple workflows is it should be like very, very easy and isolated from each other so that they're not impacting everybody else. Okay, so the next topic, this is one of the things that has been fascinating for us, is the pursuit of perfect master data. And we think the ideal number of master data errors should be 0. This is no different from what you expect when you buy a car. If you buy a car, you expect it should have 0 defects, issues, like when you buy in the beginning. You're not thinking that after 100,000 miles, obviously it'll have some issues. But when you buy something and it should be pristine, right? It should be very, very high quality. So the best from an organizational perspective is, it may not be achievable to get to 0, but that should be the general pursuit, right? So master data errors. So there are really 2 ways to do this. One is error proofing. And the second one is error correction. So error proofing is a strategy of where you make every effort so that errors are not introduced in the beginning to begin with. Now, error correction is, well, it's real world, right? Things happen. So you go fix all the errors that are in your various systems, master data errors, right? And naturally, error proofing is a lot better and cheaper than error correction. The moment you introduce errors, things can go wrong. Instead of sending like a $100 bill, you might be sending a $1,000 bill or a $10 bill, right? Some things like that have disastrous effect on the customers or even internal operations. So you do not. Error proofing is way, way better and cheaper generally. In the world of quality, generally it is considered that a quality issue in the field is about 10 to 100 times more expensive than when it is in the beginning, when it is caught before it is introduced in the field. So this is something similar, right? You let errors get through to these operational systems, bad things can happen. But since there will always be a few issues, errors, you need to go ahead and correct them. So one of the things that we suggest in error proofing is workflows are extremely effective for error proofing and the data collection through workflows. You can, of course, do this using Excel sheets and other approaches. But keeping a lot of these things really dynamic and fresh can be a challenge. But the techniques that you can use are what we have seen so far, right? If you look at it, just make it simple for people. Minimize the amount of input that they have to give. One selection they do, it should set up a lot of default values based on D drop downs. If they select something, if there is any logic-based dependent auto selections, right? All of that, when you enable that, you can minimize the number of errors that are, or eliminate all of the errors that are going into those systems, right? Somehow you can actually accomplish that in the workflow and the forms that we've shown. We'll give you a small example. And then this is error proofing. Now, error correction, the one thing strategy that works, and we have seen work within our customers, is also doing continuous data quality analysis and error correction workflows. So let's say you do have errors. What do, right? You need to somehow find a way to detect errors, number one. There are a variety of solutions that you can use. You can use for InfoSteward, you can use Power BI. A lot of our customers, we've noticed, they extract the master data and run on a daily analysis, data quality rule execution, and then they drop, they'll find, hey, there are some places where there are problems with master data, and then you got to go fix them. What we've come up with is a pretty elaborate and very effective system so that you can run this within one system or across systems. In some cases, many of our customers have multiple ERP, supply chain, and commerce, and MES, and supply chain planning systems, right? You may have to go check every one of those to see where are the inconsistencies and errors. Once you find those, you have to put them into what I call data correction workflows. And these are things that can run continuously on their own. They can even involve people where needed, but it can be something that can be fixed. So these are some examples that you're looking at. A typical example could be, hey, get the like a data health failure set, right? These things, you connect it. If you can automatically calculate, what should be the correct value, you can just go ahead and do it, or you can ask people to come in and correct the data. And then once it's done, you can just go and clean up the systems, right? So these workflows can run continuously to clean up data. So this is after the fact, right? That we know there are some errors. Better to go with this, in our opinion. So that's our pursuit of perfect master data. In the last topic, we're just going to quickly look at how master data management is integral to NPI and supply chain readiness. This is a little bit more focused on kind of industrial manufacturing, if you say, but what it does apply for pretty much practically all manufacturing industries. Within your organization's manufacturing, you have a lot of business teams that are working on NPI, new product introductions. If you're in high tech and other industrial manufacturing, there's a component engineering that happens, right? There is NPI sourcing that is working on existing suppliers, new suppliers. There is a supplier development that comes together and make sure that the suppliers are able to provide the products and services that they've signed up to provide, right, in the correct quantities. So all of that actually leads to really master data and master data assessment and changes, right? So from materials to bills of materials and routings and BOMs and manufacturer parts, AVLs and source lists and purchase info records and things like that. How do you, and this is like a very, very challenging problem for a lot of companies that we've seen, which is, they have some system where they do all of this, and then some pipelines, data pipelines that is going ahead and doing a lot of manual work that we have seen. A better approach for us is, since we do support quite a bit of engineering and supply chain processes, is to directly integrate master data as part of the overall process, right? So this is a good example of there's parts that are being changed or released, and part of that would be to go ahead and create the material, get some additional change numbers from SAP, set up the material with revision levels, create the BOMs, AVLs, etc. So you can integrate that master data directly into the overall business process. But it does require to have a fairly good workflow engine that can handle this type of data. And we've seen that to be, if you are able to accomplish that, you can definitely make it like this is a step change or a step change improvement, we would call it, in master data teams being able to support the core business processes that happen. Right, so it's a good example of an ECO. Lots of people do components. They buy, purchase procurements, manufacture parts, and so on. And that actually has a significant impact on what is the supply chain info within SAP and other ERP planning systems, right? So you need to be able to go and accommodate changes or creation of new master data as part of this overall business process, right? So, so these things are pretty important from master data being able to support the core supply chain excellence initiatives that happen in organizations. So we're in the last 10 minutes, so we've kind of covered a lot of ground here on the importance of master data for achieving supply chain excellence. Many aspects to it, but I think these are all critical to master data teams helping the organization. And a very, very core aspect of why organizations exist is, you are providing new products, making them, you're using your supply chains to accomplish a lot of work that happens, and master data can be the glue that holds it together. Okay, with that, we're going to pause and take any questions. Okay, so let me look at. There's a question on where do you find all the ISO codes for your unit of measure that SAP allows for material setup? Yeah, so when we are working with this workflow engine, we have a direct connection to SAP to a large sense. And one such, if you notice here, we do synchronize a little bit depending upon the needs on workflows. A lot of the core tables within SAP here, right? These are synchronized between the workflow engine and SAP. So if your ISO code units of measure table is something that comes directly from SAP. So everything that you need is there within the system based on like the synchronization with SAP for reference data, what we call. Okay. Any additional questions? Let me also look at chat. Yeah, there's a question on, how does it connect to, or rather, is there support for engineering systems? Yes. So the workflows that we have, we are also supporting quite a few organizations on the engineering front. And while master data is central to do it, they use a lot of these processes such as the component change requests, PCN analysis. These are workflows designed here, and they do work with the existing um, PLM systems like Agile and Windchill, so on, and then work with them with respect to connecting those to various ERP and supply chain planning and commerce systems from this thing, right? So here we are actually doing directly to look at these workflows, the parts, etc. They are part of the system here. Okay, so let me re-log in so that we can see it. Okay, so if you look at these parts, we have this concept of parts, which actually are fairly central to how engineering systems connect to the rest of the organization, the supply chain. So it'll have parts, bombs, part history, part changes, all the parameters that go with approved manufacturers. So all of that representation is all there. And you're using a lot of the business. These actually connect to various external systems, depending upon Windchill and SAP and Oracle, FTP servers. Sometimes we also use FTP servers to go back, get some drawings, etc. Where old design systems. So you can connect to all of them and use within the workflows to directly interoperate, right? So a good example here is right. So creating the AVL approved material in SAP, AVL in SAP, setting up ROHS status. So all of that is essentially uh, uh, core master data when it comes to NPI and supply chain readiness. So we incorporate all of that directly here using these concepts of parts and representation of materials, essentially. Okay. There's another question. Can it work with multiple SAP solutions? So a lot of our customers actually do have multiple ERPs. For example, they are simultaneously running ECC and S/4HANA, and these workflows work uniformly. It doesn't matter um, the number of SAP instances that you have. It can connect to all of them, and within the same workflow, it can actually interoperate, kind of share information bidirectionally. So let's say you have a material being set up. It needs to be like your European division is working on S/4HANA, and your North America is on ECC, but the material needs to be set up on both, and the workflows can work seamlessly across these different SAP systems. Not only that, often just within SAP solution set, there is different types of master data. For example, EWM if you have extended warehouse management, the master data there is slightly different from ERP, and it needs some additional complementary information for it to work well. You can also connect to such systems if you have running IBP, same thing. Its master data is slightly different, while it gets bulk of it from SAP, but it needs some additional information that needs to be added to the existing master data. So you can do all of that. We also support Salesforce, Dynamics, any other standard solution that has a published API you can connect to and support master data processes. Okay, so with that, we have reached the end of the session. Again, we want to thank you for taking the time to join the session today. Once the recording is available and we prepare the page where you can actually download and view the recording, we will send out an email with all of the information. The other thing, final thing is, you can also test drive the solution. If you have interest, please feel free to reach out to us. A test drive could be using our standard workflows, or you can also design your own organizational workflows and even install this within your environment to see how it works. Okay, we'd be more than happy to support. Please feel free to reach out to us if this is of interest, and we can support you in the process. Okay, thank you again for joining. We look forward to hearing from you if you have an interest. Thank you. Have a great day.